to call it a profession, where insults are the music, for lack of a better word, of the day, what you call names. It's different in my case. I've developed a thick skin. I knew from many years ago that I'll be serving people. And when you serve people, you create friends, you create enemies. Here you are, distinguished lawyer, being called all sorts of names, Malukula, what have you.
Uh-huh.
Is it really worth it?
See, it has got nothing to do with politics and everything to do with character. Politics is not a dirty game. It's just dirty people that come to politics. And for as long as we do not take steps to sanitize it by those that are of decent character coming into politics, that is likely to continue. But then again, it is not what you're called, it's what you respond to. They'll call you everything that they have to call you, they'll throw anything at you. And I keep saying that slander is a tool for persons that are supposed to be uh, that have lost the debate.
Yeah.
So if you lose the debate, you resort to slander. That's when you get to name calling.
Yeah.
What we should be discussing are issues of substance. What do Zambians want? What is the cost of fuel? How do we put food on the table? How do we ensure that our economy grows? What are we doing with the mines? How are we making sure that our people are benefiting from their resources? That's the discussion in politics.
Yeah.
How do we make the lives of our people decent? It's not about name calling. So if any person resorts to slander, then they've lost the debate and they should not be in politics. And leave us who are dealing with issues to do with life, issues to do with the betterment of people's lives, to remain in politics. But a lot of people have been pushed away from politics. A lot of people say, I'm not a politician, when we are all inherently politicians. The very fact that we are subject to these rules that govern us as to how we live with each other. We're inherently politicians. The moment we talk about putting food on the table, improving our lives, that's politics, the science of improving human life. That's what it is. That's all it is. So with that said, it is incumbent upon each and every person to take part in politics and contribute to the well-being of their country.
As a rider, to that, what are your strengths? What is your driving force?
I think I come with a sense of decency towards, in my approach towards politics, with resolve and commitment to what we can build on with what we have. And see, I'm reminded of the story of when God met Moses, and he was giving him an assignment to go. And he says, I can't. And he said, what do you have in your hands? And he said, I have a rod. And when he had a rod, God told him, throw it on the ground and pick it up. So God uses what you have. So what do you have in your hands? What do we have in our hands that we can contribute to the prosperity, or indeed to the improvement of people's lives in our country? That is a responsibility for each and every person. What do you have in your hands? You have 55 years of experience in the media. What has been your contribution? I remember watching you when you interviewed Father Umbeto some time back.
Yeah, my good friend Umbeto.
Yes, on your great show. I was a kid then. Never did I ever imagine that I would be interviewed by a person like you. And here I am today discussing this with you with all that experience. I'm able to draw from you as to what your experiences have been in this country, what your concerns are right now. I remember we had a discussion. You said the problem generally has been greed.
Yep.
Now, if the problem has been greed, then we know that it is a character flaw that has been an issue, and not the systems. But out of that greed, people tend to destroy the systems to satisfy their greed. And in this case, we're saying, how best can we create systems such that even a greedy person is unable to thrive in their greed, should they take up a position of responsibility, such as the presidency, ministerial position, members of parliament. What happened in parliament is a clear example as to what we should not be: greedy. This so-called Bill 7, now Act number 13 of 2025, was obtained by corruption.
Yep.
It is a document that is a proceed of crime, bribery, threats. Those are the things that enabled it to pass. And if we are going to continue allowing institutions of governance to be tampered with by persons who are greedy, then we are certainly going to have problems. How do we curtail this? What laws have we put in place? What institutional framework do we have? What areas are we concentrating on to strengthen our institutions of governance, so that it's not dependent on a good person taking up a position, but the system itself has inbuilt safeguards to ensure that any person who's going to run government will follow the precepts or indeed the rules of governance that we put for ourselves.
Tell me, Councillor Makebi, 61 years of independence. To be honest, I must be frank, I've seen it all. Not much progress. Perhaps one major, success is the One Zambia, One Nation, which today is, threatened. With all the minerals, all the natural, resources, people are still wallowing in poverty. I know a lot of countries in this region. Namibia, for example, I spent quite a bit of time in Namibia. In such a short time, they made strides. 4 top positions belonging to women. They did not need to change the constitution. What am I saying? 61 years, not much to show for. Why? The question is why? With so much potential. And this is the word which I don't even like, potential. Potential which is not realized in a council.
Well, potential will remain just that for as long as no one makes a move. And if you're going to make that move, like you said, out of greed, we may not realize that potential. What has kept most women out is not necessarily the fact that they are incapable of being part of it. What has kept most groups from participating in the political agenda of the country is not the systems, as it were, but the persons that have been involved in it. And those are the issues that we have to had arguments and debates as regards the amendments. We're going to bring in more women and persons living with disabilities, the youths, and we decide, okay, we're going to allocate you 40. Then we increase the number of constituencies and bring them to over 200 constituencies. Now we're going to have 280 members of parliament, and we're saying 40 of these are going to be persons that are seem to be marginalized. So 40 out of 280 leaves us with 250. Is that an equitable distribution? Why aren't they participating in this constituency-based system? What have we done that is making them not participate in this constituency-based system? The Constitution envisaged that political parties would be responsible enough, and it thrust that responsibility on political parties to observe the issues of gender, issues of participation of marginalized persons, the youths, and persons living with disabilities. So if a political party is going to field candidates, are they going to deliberately take steps to say, because we are a people that want to be inclusive in our approach, what we're going to do is we are going to allocate these seats, or we're going to give preference to persons with disabilities, preference to the youths, preference to women. That is what we're going to do, because that is what we believe in. So the Constitution sets up that framework for political parties to be able to do that, or at least for governance to be able to take those into considerations. Unless it's practically impossible, then we politicians come and say, no, we have to be forced to do this. And in forcing us to do this, we are going to limit our numbers to 20 to 20. We're going to limit our numbers to 3 persons with disabilities, 5 youths. How did you come up with that? What exactly informed you to decide that 40 is going to be a sufficient number? So these are little seemingly sweeteners that were entrenched into the enactment of Bill 7 so that the song is sung about inclusivity when the idea is to create this control over the National Assembly. Even when it comes to the issue of let us have these people, and this is going to be proportional representation. Now, you'd expect that proportional representation would be dependent on what the parties get in terms of members of parliament, but you attach it to a presidential vote. Now, here's the irony of it. We have told ourselves, for you to be president, you must get 50 plus 1. So already out of the 40, you are saying half of it must go to the president.
Yeah.
Is that what we're looking for? Is that what we want? Is that what we want, to create a monster in the presidency so that he's able to nominate 11 members of parliament? Remember, he has this power to nominate 11 members of parliament. And if he's going to get 50 plus 1, already we're saying out of these 40 that are to be nominated, 20 already belong to the president. So if 20 already belong to the president, then he is going to have 30 members of parliament even before he does anything. 30 members of parliament. That is for purposes of wanting to wield control over the National Assembly and be able to pass any law that that this president wants. The idea of giving the president 11 persons to nominate acknowledges the fact that there may be circumstances where there is a skill that you require in parliament, which you do not have amongst your members of parliament. It gives you power to nominate those to come and assist you in that particular area. It also is there to enable you to balance, should there be an imbalance in terms of gender, youth, or indeed persons with disabilities. That is provided for them. But this so-called Act number 13 of 2025 now is intended to assert control over the National Assembly, assert the control of the president over what goes on, when we should be moving towards autonomy of these institutions, separation of powers. Let's have an independent judiciary. Let's have an independent legislature. Let's have an independent executive. And this should be a check on each other. Not for the executive to have total and full control over the legislature, as we see now, where everything is rigged and manipulated to favor the executive to an extent. After the passing of a bill,
very sad.
It's like a referee celebrating after a score. It really doesn't make sense, and it defies all logic. It defies the essence of separation of powers, and that should not be the case.
Tell me, around at this stage, what are you talking about? Traits of dictatorship. What makes leaders? Or what is? Let me put it this way: what has made, President HH? I keep on saying, when people get into presidency, they become blind and they become deaf. What is your reading of President HH as a man and as a president? And how do you describe, his governance?
I think we are where we are because of just one word: insecurity.
From what?
I think President Hakainde Hichilema is insecure. He's insecure. All that are in the book and has delivered on none of them. There was a problem of fertilizer costing a 50 kg bag, costing 250 kwacha. What is the cost? I was just buying fertilizer. It costs over 1,000 kwacha to buy one pocket of fertilizer. Urea costs even much more. So you have a person that promised that, and now he's insecure that I've not delivered on this promise. How do I secure myself in this position or in this seat that seems to be sweet? He promised that fuel would be costing 12 kwacha. Where are we now? It's not costing 12 kwacha. What we're told is that I will cut off the middlemen. And after we cut off, he gave us a calculation, this formula as to how it was going to be done. Has that worked? No, it hasn't worked. It has gotten all the more expensive. We're told milling was going to be costing 50 kwacha because according to him, there was a problem. Farmers were not being incentivized enough. They were not being given enough inputs. As far as was concerned, farmers should have been given 8 bags of fertilizers instead of the 6 that we're receiving. It should have been more, and that was going to do much more. What do we have now? Farmers are sharing a bucket of fertilizers amongst themselves. They were used to get seed in bags. Now they're sharing those seeds in cups to amongst themselves. You saw what happened in Katete. Those women who were arrested because they came out publicly to say, listen, we're sharing what we've been given as a cooperative. The bags that we've been given are not sufficient for us to produce what we ought to produce, and we have to share. So there is that broken promise. All these broken promises make a person, a leader, who has this appetite for power, insecure. And because of that insecurity, they will want to extend their stay. And in trying to extend their stay, you see them attacking the opposition, making sure that people who speak against that are arrested. I've given you an example. The women who spoke and expressed themselves to say, we are not receiving sufficient fertilizers. We are sharing, as they were sharing. Those were arrested. They were arrested. Look at these cyber laws. He said, but at the time we enacted the Cyber Crimes Act, that he was going to scrap it off because initially it was just intended to combat cyberbullying. Now it has gone a step further to deal with any kind of speech that is expressed online. When that is what he thrived on, that's the cradle from which he was born. People speaking freely, people speaking online freely. Now he doesn't want to hear any dissenting voices. What has happened? You have people that are getting arrested, people that are getting jailed. You have these so-called seditious practices, which was once very rampant during the colonial era, resurfacing now during his term. And that is just about stifling dissent. If you disagree with the government and you say something that they disagree with, they call it seditious practices. But in the meantime, we know that we have the right to say things that we ought to be saying. People that are talking on phones these days are saying, listen, let's go to WhatsApp, because they're afraid of expressing themselves. Why? Because in the Cyber Securities Act, the Cyber Crimes Act, you have made a law that allows you to spy on your citizens. Why do you want to be spying on your citizens? Listen to what the citizens are, because your job is to serve the people. And how are you going to serve if you can't listen to what they have to say? How are you going to serve them if you don't know what they want? And those are the problems that is had. Perhaps I think he's one person who thinks I'm the most intelligent person in the room. Everybody should hear what I have to say. His conduct over Bill 7 says it all. He won't take any advice. People will disagree. Look, no, you disagree with me. I'll look for someone who agrees with me, without necessarily interrogating the reasons that people disagree with you.
Let's spend a bit of time on Bill 7, especially the legal issues, because this has got far-reaching consequences on governance in the country. Let's start with the judiciary. You being from that sector, what is this done on the judiciary? I know the men and women of credibility in the judiciary. What has this done to the credibility of individuals and credibility of the judiciary in totality?
We have a timid judiciary. That's what we have now. A timid judiciary, a judiciary that is where the hopes of people in the judiciary is diminishing on a daily basis. Look at this. The very Bill 7. The judiciary makes a pronouncement to say this was born on a cradle of illegality. It's unconstitutional. This is a law that should begin from the people, not the executive. They pass that. What does President Hakainde Hichilema do? He does not act on what the judiciary has said. His attorney general goes to court saying, you need to reverse that judgment. Now, if the attorney general, who is the legal advisor to the government, goes to court and says, you need to reverse that judgment, then the attorney general is acknowledging to say, listen, what you said stands. We acknowledge it as law. And for as long as it is law, this cannot continue. Whereas the attorney general is saying it needs to be reversed. On the other side, President Hakainde Hichilema is proceeding with a bill that is said to be unconstitutional. Now, if the number in the country who is getting constitution and not respecting the judiciary, then you have this same judiciary that says you can't do this is moved to say, listen, National Assembly is proceeding with these proceedings. Stop them so that we can deal with this niggling issue. The judiciary says, no, they can continue. That sort of compromise on the part of the judiciary also adds to them not being respected because they're showing signs of being inconsistent. And this is not the first time that they're being inconsistent. And it is easy for the executive to take advantage of them because they are inconsistent. Should they be consistent rather, there'll be more faith in the judiciary. But President Hakainde Hichilema has managed to ensure that this consistency in pronouncements by the judiciary is not respected. And just that, the very fact that there's a pronouncement from court makes everything in Act Number 30 unconstitutional. It remains unconstitutional even after it has been passed. And that has to be challenged. And the judiciary needs to rise to the challenge to show that they're indeed a beacon of hope when an inconstitutionality or something unconstitutional is being perpetrated by any arm of government. They need to be able to protect the people. You can't, for convenience, make the Constitution null and void. The provisions of the Constitution, you make them of no effect. Typical example, this Mopani mines issue, which Mounds took to court. The judgment of the majority of the court of the four is now telling us that it is okay for government to ignore provisions of the Constitution that say that if you're going to dispose of any asset of the state, you don't have to seek parliamentary approval. What has that done to that provision where it says parliamentary approval must be sought? It's of no effect. The interpretation of the Constitution at any given time should be to give effect to the provisions of the Constitution, not to make them null and void. We lose the plot when we do that. Then we don't need that document if it's going to be disregarded at will.
As if that's not bad enough, Council. I'm sorry we're spending a bit of time on this, the other issues, but it is very, very key. As if that's not bad enough. We go to Parliament. The Speaker says we won't listen to anybody. Nobody is going to stop us from enacting, this law. The rumors that some members of Parliament are bribed, and finally the law is enacted, disregarding of any other arms of governance. Again, what is the impact of this on all the arms of governance and governance in totality? There's something seriously wrong here. And let me add, since this is unconstitutional and the acts of members of Parliament, which is suspicious, could they be jailed if found that they did something illegal?
See, just this morning I woke up and I saw something in Europe
Yeah.
where a member of parliament was jailed up to 10 years
Yeah.
for receiving a bribe.
Yeah.
Receiving a bribe to vote in a particular way. And the judge in that matter was very clear. Notwithstanding whether you were going to vote for that bill, the very fact that you got money as an inducement, even if it did not play a part in inducing, the very fact that you received money to exercise a right that you have given to you by the law is illegal. Now that falls in or no falls as regards what's happening. We had my good friend, I'm sorry I have to say this, Christopher Kangombe, stand on the floor of the House, debate against the Bill 7 itself. And when it comes to voting, he votes for Bill 7. And when his question is my family comes first. Now, what does that tell us about our leaders? What does it say about our leaders? If we are going to make that sacrifice, or these rumors of having been bribed, which have not been dispelled in any case, $150,000, or indeed the 3 million kwachas that were given to them. Perhaps that explains the confidence with which the executive was speaking to say we're going to pass this. It perhaps explains the confidence with which the speaker was saying, let's finish the debate. It's time to vote. We need to vote. Should we take it that this Act number 13 of 2025 is a proceed of crime, a threat to a member of parliament, coercion of any form, whether by bribery, corruption, or indeed anything that, any inducement is an offense. And if proven, obviously, the law will have to take its course. Already, I'm aware that Ambassador Mwamba has alluded to a complaint to ACC to investigate these matters, to get to the bottom of it. And should they get to the bottom of it, I think the chickens need to come home.
Can I also remind you, Council, that legally, the official list of how the voting was done is supposed to be released, I think 2 days or so, after, which has not been done. Is there any rule of governance in this country? I'm sorry to say, I know I'll be called all sorts of things, but these are facts we're talking about. We're talking about governance here. Why was the list not be released?
I've been a member of parliament before. And having been a member of parliament, all votes of proceedings are released within 24 hours. If the voting is done today, by the very next day, if there was a division, you will receive a list to show you who voted in what direction. And that forms part of the Hansard as to the proceedings of the debate. So within 24 hours, that is produced and given to individual members of parliament. I sat there watching Mr. Mausampa seated outside an office waiting for it, because he's entitled to it. He's representing the people of Matero. The people of Matero need to know how their members of parliament voted. The people of Zambia need to know how their members of parliament voted. To this day, there is little or no access to it, apart from those that feel this was not right, have possibly made that document available. And obviously, in your profession, you do not necessarily disclose your sources, but the document has been made available. And those that have been cited have not come back to say, no, I didn't. They've actually accepted that they did, at least for most of them who are decent enough to do so. So we see that this idea of not adhering to the rule is creeping into all institutions of governance. We see how compromised the legislature is now. The parliament is compromised. the deeds or the misdeeds of the speaker are so glaring and so shocking that everybody is able to wonder and say,
Yeah.
what is this that's going on in the house? The idea of dancing by the member of parliament.
Yeah.
By the way, did you notice that she forgot to bow?
Yeah, I
During the
noticed that.
procession.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Never in the history of the Commonwealth has any speaker misbehaved in the manner that Nelly Muti misbehaved. And that should call for censure. It should call for removal of Nelly Muti, because you can't have an umpire celebrating a goal. You can't.
Let's close, this particular, issue on the Constitution by another loaded question. 264, house, massive. Initially it was just meant for over 100.
It's 280.
280. What does this do to the cost? It means enlarging the house. It means more money to pay, the members of parliament. So many costs. Is at what, let me just put it this: at what cost? That's part of the question. The other question, to round it off, from where you sit, everything seems to be favoring the incumbent. What does this mean to the elections in 2026? Is just going to be an academic, exercise to the elections in 2026?
And those are the issues that were debated before and things that still remain true. When you look at the 115 members of parliament that have been introduced into the House, we already have a bill, a budget that has been passed. Our budget, 90% of it is personal emoluments, 10% towards debt servicing and development. You can't achieve anything with that 10%. In terms of development, it's nothing. So you have 90% that has already gone towards personal emoluments, salaries, wages, and all. Then you did not factor that into your budget. At the end of the year, you come and you introduce 115 new members of parliament. Now, this 115, you are going to introduce the idea of having to pay them salaries. They all have to be paid salaries on a monthly basis, no less than 50,000. Extrapolate that over 115 more, over a period of 12 months, or indeed over 5 years. Not just that, the allowances that go with that. Not only allowances, they're entitled to vehicles, which essentially government gets to pay for. Now, you have this huge wage bill that you're saying we need to introduce these new members of parliament. Meanwhile, when you're coming into government, you're saying, we have a bloated government. We're going to reduce the ministries. And in reducing the ministries, we're removing this Minister of Religious Affairs because it's bloated. It's an expense on the treasury. Then you create 150 more.
Yeah.
What are your priorities? We have farmers that are queuing up to receive monies which FRA has not paid. And you are going to spend over 5 million kwacha on each member of parliament. You're going to spend over 5 million kwacha on each member of parliament that you're going to create. Over and above that, you're saying in these new constituencies, we are creating new constituencies so that you could have more CDF. That is not making sense. It is not making sense. It is not making sense because you are just telling us that the system is broken. So the question of the increase of members of parliament has got nothing to do with efficiency in terms of governance, but it has everything to do with enshrining oneself to be able to overstay in government, to be able to manipulate the law into one's favor. Increasing the members of parliament does not in any way guarantee that government will be much more efficient. Let me give you an example of how broken down the system is. The president went to showgrounds and he said, we have brought 150 vehicles for the police, 156 CDF vehicles. Now, these are for the police. You are buying 150 vehicles, one for each constituency, to go to the police. First, it must show that there was a need for these vehicles. So why are you using CDF to buy police vehicles? This need should arise from the police. Six vehicles. Tell me, Lusaka Central, how many police stations are there? Are you saying that they do not have sufficient transport? Because Lusaka Central Police is in Lusaka Central.
Yeah.
You have Woodlands, which is in Lusaka Central. You have the headquarters, which is in Lusaka Central. You have a lot of other police stations. What were you thinking in deciding that we're going to give them one vehicle? They probably don't need it. It shows that the inefficiencies in your Ministry of Home Affairs, the inefficiencies in the police. You say we're going to buy 150 ambulances to go to the constituencies. You are telling us that your Ministry of Health is inefficient because this need should have arisen from them. And they were going to tell you where exactly they need those ambulances. You wouldn't go to the extent of buying an ambulance for each and every constituency. That's politics of appeasement or populist approach to politics, and not on the needs. Experiencing. That's the inefficiencies that we have in our governance system. So if you ask me to say this whole bill and the enactment and bringing in of all this, it's just for purposes. It's not a constitution for the people. This is a constitution for the executive. This is a constitution for President Hakainde Hichilema because it starts with him. It started with him. Those from whom it should have started from said, the Constitutional Court said, you didn't start with the honors of the Constitution. Yeah. The preamble to our Constitution says, we the people give unto ourselves this Constitution. It doesn't say, we the government give unto you the people this Constitution.
If it belongs to the people, Council Makebi, are you, what's the word? Are you concerned, disappointed that there isn't enough public, response or outcry into this? Is it lack of information, or that's how Zambians are? It's another occasion, it's another day, life goes on.
I wouldn't say there isn't enough. There has been more than enough. The church has spoken. The NGOs have spoken. But you see, sitting from where I'm sitting right now, I'm able to see now how that right from the start, the idea was to do exactly what they did. Because if you're going to pass the Cyber Crimes Act, stifle dissent, throw people in jail for disagreeing with you, then you have a few NGOs and the church talking for and on behalf of the people. You have individuals being able to speak as regards that. And then you are jailing people in the process. People will be afraid to speak. And that is where dictatorship is born from.
Tell me, there are people are saying, assuming the UPND win the 2026 election, they'll obviously have the majority. They've already inbuilt, about 30 members of parliament before we go to the polls. Assuming they have, this majority, some people are saying nothing can stop the UPND in a government after 2026, saying we get rid of the two-term and then we go on forever until you vote us out.
I need to clear that.
Yeah.
You did say, does it mean that the UPND is going to win the next election? Now, to say that would to make people feel hopeless. No, it doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
The fact that they've increased the number of constituencies does not necessarily mean that they're going to win the next election.
Because it doesn't impact the presidential vote.
It doesn't impact the presidential vote.
Yeah.
Because the presidential vote still remains that he must get 50 plus 1.
Yeah.
As things stand, it is impossible for President Hakainde Hichilema to get 50 plus 1 votes.
Okay.
He will not get 50 plus 1 votes. This move was intended to save most of the dinosaurs that are in the UPND.
Right.
The discontentment, the level of discontentment in the UPND, if you've noticed, has been that there are those that are said to have served for a very long period of time. And what the UPND has been grappling with, you saw that conference, the meeting they had at the conference center, where they were saying, we will not allow any independence.
Right.
We will not allow anyone to go independent. It's because they were looking at the constituencies where we have these members of parliament that have overstayed. These members of parliament are saying, listen, we know we have been there for long, but we just formed government. It is our time to also enjoy. After we usher you into government, why do you want to disadvantage us now?
Yeah.
Now, at this stage, what the UPND was looking at is, how do we save the status? Let's go to those constituencies where these people are and divide them so that these long-serving members of parliament also have an opportunity to stand on one part of the constituency and create a part of the constituency for their competitor, who, if we don't adopt, is going to stand as an independent and will disturb the configuration of our numbers.
So the country has to suffer for the problem of UPND.
It was a political move of the UPND, nothing to do with the good of the people. It was a fight for survival. Look at what happened to the PF in the last election, where there was a proliferation of independent member of parliament contesting against incumbents that divided the vote and advantaged the opposition. Now, the idea is, how can we not advantage the opposition in this? Let's create more constituencies. It has got nothing to do with serving the people.
Right. Let's talk about, again, another issue of the governance of President HH. A couple of weeks ago, about 2 months perhaps, the president, in Mulungushi, said, you must be living in a different Zambia, because his Zambia is doing extremely well. The economy is over 1%. What do you read into this? The president speaking as a businessman, or HH speaking as the president? Which is which here? And let me also put a rider there. Are there concerns that we have a president in State House who is also a businessman? Does that worry you? And the issue that always comes up is a declaration of assets, which this president has not done. Does this worry you, of this president wearing two hats, one as a businessman and one as a president?
Let me break it down for the people of Zambia to understand. The president is obsessed with issues of numbers. And for him, when he talks of GDP, growth of 5%, he thinks he is telling the people that our economy is growing. It is for that reason that when Father Salangeta said, the common person out there is thinking of Ulutosh Wawad, the president never understood that. For him, that was an attack on him. Father Salangeta said, it is not about the graphs that you are telling us. And at that time, they showed us graphs of pledges to the economy, which have not come to fruition even up to now. So he talks about 5% GDP growth. Now, what is GDP? GDP is cost of goods and services in a country. Okay, so if the services and the goods that the country transacts in is up to about 5%, the numbers also will show that they've grown. There's growth. Now, this growth, is it internal or external? You have the mines. The mines have been given incentives where they don't pay tax. When a mine is producing, say, 1 ton, and they sell 1 ton, they don't pay tax on that. And if they don't pay tax on that, it means there's nothing that is coming to the country. So the president will come to parliament and said, we produced 1 ton and of copper, and that's a good thing. The next year, they produce 10 tons. The government is going to say, we have produced 10 tons, meaning that the value of the goods and services in the country has gone up because you have produced more. This mining company has sold. None of that money has come into the country. So that's external. All the monies have been externalized. All the accounts are held out there. So that on paper will show that there's growth. In terms of poverty, what has happened? Have the people of Zambia become any better? We have every reason to worry because the poverty levels are high. That money that was supposed to be used to buy electricity for that barber to run his barber shop, this mining company was given an incentive by this government not to pay that money, but to allocate it to themselves and externalize it. So we do not have power to buy so that this barber can benefit. That money should come from the mines. That person who owns that butchery now has to find a genset to keep their meat fresh. Because that money which was supposed to come from the mines to enable us increase our generation capacity, to enable us import power, has not been used, has not been given to this person. So this pressure of the incentives that are given to the mines is being felt by every Zambian there. Because that money could have been used to buy medicine. That person in the hospital doesn't have to go and buy a Panadol and use monies which they don't have. So you're creating discontentment by appeasing a few. Now, these mines that are making all these profits, which they're externalizing, are not load-shedded, by the way. The power goes we are going to get a 5 to 10% mineral royalty taxes. We would have felt the effect. That barber would have felt the effect in terms of power supply because that money the government would have gotten without the need to pay back. Those are the flaws in the policies of this government. So President Hakainde Hichilema will tell you of these numbers. We shall export 3 million metric tons of copper. He's not telling you what benefit there's going to be to the Zambians because the incentives make it impossible for a common Zambian to benefit.
Concerns, that the president is also a businessman at the same time.
Exactly. So that issue of thinking business to run a country is what is flawed. A country is not a business enterprise. It's about attending to the social welfare of the people. It is not a profit-making organization where you concentrate on numbers, which the mines or indeed any other sector whom you have given incentives, they're not paying any taxes, are making. That is their money. That is not your money. You are counting the eggs that have not hatched. Even if they hatch, the chickens are not yours. They're all going away and your people are suffering. That is a problem. President Hakainde Hichilema should now descend and say, listen, I have a country to run. You are getting these resources from our country. We need a benefit from this, from these mines. We have an issue of Canona Energy, for example. Persons who are in Canona Energy are known to be associates of the president. They are buying power from ZESCO and selling to the mines. So out of this crisis, his business associates have seen a business opportunity. The crisis of energy that is affecting
Is
the
that
country.
is there a problem there? Aren't these people just businessmen
No.
who are doing a business like any other individual businessman?
Okay. Now let's take it, they're businessmen. At what cost to the country? If our resource as a people is ZESCO, that's our resource as Zambians. Canona Energy is not our resource. It belongs to private individuals who are associates to the president. If they are going to buy power cheaply from ZESCO and sell it much more expensively to the mines, who's making a profit there? Why don't we allow ZESCO to sell power to the mines at the price at which the mines are buying from Kano and make a profit that is going to benefit you and me? Why don't we do that? Why are we creating opportunities for our colleagues by way of association?
If it's such a
not having that benefit trickle down to the average Zambian. Why aren't we doing that?
Are there any legal problems in this council? And if there are, why haven't legal firms taken up this? Perhaps even your firm.
Now listen.
Yeah.
It is not the legality or illegality of it. It's the morality of it.
All right.
As to what benefits the Zambians. Are we acting in the best interest of Zambia? Look at this. When we had COVID-19, we had to put in everything that we could for purposes of saving the average Zambian. If in the wake of that COVID-19, you are superintending over these events, you choose to put, or at least you give an opportunity for someone to benefit from a crisis other than the people themselves, then we have a problem.
Yeah.
President Edgar Chagwalungu refused to close the borders at that particular time and says we must increase vigilance in the border areas for us to continue. Edgar Chagwalungu docked a ship in Mozambique to be able to bring in power directly into Zambia for purposes of making sure that people had power, and we had load shedding of up to 4 hours. Now, that's a great sacrifice that you make. It is not a profit-making venture, but you're saying, how best can we serve the people of Zambia? Now, it could have been very easy to say, okay, fine, because they don't have power, let's and we don't have money, we'll be making a loss. Let the private enterprise run with this. Let them be the ones to sort out this problem. Then you're not standing up to your duty as a government. Government is intended to make life easy, to make policies that enable the locals to thrive. Even if it means subsidizing, government has to do that. Government must do it.
Let me ask you one far-reaching, question, an emotional one, Council. As we sit and discuss, here, a man was very close to you, a man you represented, a man I think you learned so much from as a person and as a president, the sixth president. His body is lying somewhere in South Africa. I can ask a lot of questions about this, but I just want clarity. What is the status right now? And two, Are you at peace, Council, that you're active now in politics at a time when the sixth president, was more than a president to you? Is still lying in a morgue, somewhere. It's another question. And then people have accused you of taking advantage. People are saying you're the chosen person. So many loaded issues. I just want clarity to this. And at the tail end, my good friend in the winter, Kavimba, wasn't on TV, and he said some things that did not go down well. And Emmanuel Mwamba responded, to that. And it's been an ongoing verbal fight, so to say. Just put clarity, to all these issues I've raised. I've had to raise all the issues because of the time factor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Indeed, that's a very loaded question.
Yeah.
And a very solemn one for me.
Yeah.
And it should be solemn for every other person out there.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, the rule using propaganda by this government has extended to the issue of the burial of ECL. The stubbornness that the government expressed as regards Bill 7, I can tell you, is the same stubbornness that they've expressed as regards the putting to rest of the remains of ECL. And I say this with the utmost humility, that there has been a drift by reason of propaganda to put the blame, shift it from the government and place it upon the family. And as regards the family, I am glad that I have been given the honor to be the shock absorber for and on behalf of the family. I'm happy to do that. All the attacks that have been leveled against the government, against the family, by the government is propaganda machinery. And indeed, those that have been victims of misinformation and disinformation, I'm glad to have absorbed, to be able to absorb that. Even in the midst of mourning, there has to be responsibility. And this responsibility, rising to that responsibility, in his honor, in the honor of all the freedom fighters in Zambia, in honor of every person that has sacrificed for this country, including in your honor, Ambassador Mutubila, the 55 years that you have spent in trying to see that we have a better Zambia. Men and women, whether mourning or not, must arise to the challenge, because that's the greatest honor that we can give to you. That is the greatest honor that we can give to President Edgar Chagwalu. We have not buried him, not for anything but the stubbornness of the government. It gives me this opportunity to say we would have made a lot of prayer, whom we had approached to be able to facilitate and speak, be a mediator to help bridge this gap between the family and the government, has not accepted to be part of this process because he has been a victim of slander, misinformation, and disinformation by this government, especially after the family expressed that that is the person they'll be comfortable with. The government itself expressed that they would be comfortable with Bishop Joshua Banda. So we're going to have Bishop Joshua Banda and Bishop Archbishop Alec Banda sitting together, mediating between the family and the government. As we speak now, Archbishop Alexander has stepped aside and says, I cannot be part of this process. Now, there are a lot of factors that have led to this. And I think it is time the people of Zambia got to know about this. There has been a lot of insincerity as regards the issue of President Gata. The government of the Republic of Zambia, the government of President Hakainde Hichilema, based on propaganda, falsehood, is pushing for an inquest to be carried out in South Africa on the basis that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu was poisoned. Now, we sit back and I see comments to say, bring the body, bring the body, bring the body. And I'm thinking, has this misinformation and disinformation gotten to this extent where the government is now trying to make it seem as though it's the family that is resisting? Who went to court? It's the government that locked the family up in court for purposes of trying to carry out their will and not making sure that the will of the family as well as the deceased is taken into consideration in doing that. The family has never any given stubbornness on the part of the government that has done that. Now, I was talking about the issue of propaganda, and I think this is the right time that people of Zambia. The Star newspaper in South Africa, an article was written by the government of Zambia, and I speak of this on very good authority. Now, what Star newspaper does is, I will give you the link to the story so you can have a look at it. If I have a story which I want published in a newspaper, I can go to a newspaper and pay for an article to be produced. Once I pay for that article to be produced, I will sign an indemnity form. Then they'll produce that article. The government of Zambia caused an article to be produced in that paper to the extent that Tasila Lungu, Honorable Brian Mutubila, as well as Honorable Nakachinda, had made statements to the extent that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu was poisoned. Now, this is an article that is produced in a paper paid for by the government of Zambia. Now, the government of Zambia engages a private investigator to investigate the alleged poisoning. Now, you have started a story, which is false. You engage a private investigator to investigate based on that story. Then there's this organization, Progressive Forces of South Africa, which was hired by the Zambian government to protest in South Africa that they want the body to be buried in Zambia. Now, I hope you're seeing the matter. Now, you have this organization protest, say they want the body buried. They're not protesting out of conviction. They've been hired to. They have a press briefing at Gallagher Center, paid for by the government of Zambia, to address the media and talk about these things. They go and toy at the court, paid for by the government of Zambia. Now, this private investigator gets the police in South Africa and goes to the morgue, wanting access to the body, to saying they want to carry out a post-mortem. The morgue says, listen, there is an order of the court that any person who wants to access the body must do so with the permission of the family. They do not contact the family. When the morgue contacts the family, and I'm asked to get in touch and find out, I ask to speak to the police. I asked to speak to this private investigator who's leading this police. They refuse to speak to us, and they have a meeting with the monk. The minutes, we produce them. This person says, I'm a private investigator. I'm Mr. Sindisi, hired by the government of the Republic of Zambia to deal with this matter. Now, at that particular point, they say, we have a report that President Edgar Chagwa know that this is restriction as to who can access to the So they do that, and when they have a meeting with the MOG administration, they tell them to say, we are investigating a matter. This time around, they change. They say it's not a family member who has reported. They say from social media reports. Now, remember that these social media reports include this organization that they have paid, as well as that article that they paid for. The monk obviously tells them we can't honor anything outside the court order. What do? They go to the magistrate's court to begin an inquest. I know we're running out of time, but I think this is very important. Yes, to begin an inquest. Now, what do? They write summons, okay, to persons they think are involved. Because that article says Tarsila Lungu, they write a subpoena for Tarsila to go and testify in court. They write a subpoena for Honorable Nakachinga. They subpoena the doctors. Now, here's the curious part of it. In subpoenaing Tarsila Lungu to go and testify, they are even asking for a DNA for Tarsila. What has that got to do with anything? What has that got to do with it? These are matters that we brought to the attention of the Secretary to the Cabinet. Listen, this is what your government is doing. And obviously, some of these issues that are being done behind Wakangwa's back.
Right.
So these are the things that have been stalling this whole process. And the family says, you are accusing the family of having poisoned Walungu.
Yeah.
You want to do that? You have started this inquest. Proceed with the inquest. Because we know
where does this end, and when are we able to bury? Yeah.
Where does it end? It ends when this government decides to be decent as regards this matter. Because anything that is going to be less than
to prop up your presidency. That's part of the equation.
Yes.
And to why PF, as far as we're concerned, PF is dead in 2026 very quickly.
So you say Makebi is benefiting
Yeah.
from this. And I've explained to you, I think mourning must be done.
Yeah.
It has to be coupled with responsibility. What Isia would have loved to see. So here's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Whereas the government is pushing this propaganda to say Makebi should not participate in this because he's supposed to be mourning.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be in South Africa mourning. The same government comes and says, Tasila, you're supposed to be in parliament. Because you're not in parliament, your seat will be vacated. Why is it not okay for Tasila to continue mourning? Why are you saying Tasila should quit mourning and be in the National Assembly? Meanwhile, Makebi should be in South Africa.
Are you regarded as a threat?
It is not in any way disputable that I pose a very big challenge to President Hakainde Hichilema.
As a rider, to that, I remember the president, when he went to sign the book of condolence at Long Acres, he did allude to the fact that after all this is finished, okay, everybody who is involved will be arrested. Are you not concerned that you could actually be arrested long before the 2026 elections?
I have never been afraid of the law because I'm law abiding. And there is no way on earth, in hell, in heaven, that I could be arrested for my role in this. Because my role in this has been a dignified role for purposes of giving a shoulder to a family that is grieving. And every Zambian who sympathizes with the Lungu family will understand the predicament there. No one wants to mourn for 6 months. No one wants to mourn for 7 months. There is nothing to prove in mourning in that regard. But you have a government that is so heavy-handed, a government that is so hell-bent on winning. The same way they've been hell-bent on winning Bill 7 is the same way they are hell-bent on winning the issue of barrier. It's not about winning.
Yeah.
It has never been about winning.
Tell me.
We have to ensure that we protect the family. I've always been on the side of the downtrodden. You know where I come from.
Yeah.
Rupia Banda.
Yeah.
All those former cabinet ministers, indeed, members of the public whom I've represented. I've always been on the side of the downtrodden, and I will continue to do so.
If you don't become the candidate or whatever, I think, talk about this very quickly. This fragmentation of PF, I'm saying, you could find PF may not be, on the ballot. And I think it's in the interest of the UPN that it's not on the ballot. How do you reconcile now your need to be a president with all the problems surrounding the alliance? Very, very quickly.
That's a very important question. And I'm hoping that we could have some more time next time to deal with this issue. Because it is something that is causing a lot of hopelessness in the people of Zambia. To see that the opposition appears to be fragmented, and there's need for the opposition to come together. The issue of Bill 7. Your blow on the people of Zambia to say, your people can't even be trusted. Now we need to rebuild this trust. And I can assure the people of Zambia that we are going to emerge, and we will emerge stronger out of this because we have a plan. And we as late as yesterday, the other day, we're having meetings almost on a daily basis. We know that we need to go in a particular direction, cognizant of the fact that the long-reaching hand of this administration may not allow PF to be on the ballot. We will keep fighting for PF, but will not be oblivious to the fact that they will not allow it. And as such, we have prepared, or we are really prepared, that we are going to move together with the people of Zambia on a vehicle that we dare not disclose at this particular time, for fear that the persons that are holding this organization may be victimized.
My final question, again, I apologize, we should have had more time on this, but I think we've covered a number of issues. One, all these things that have been happening, the issue, I did ask you to comment on what Winter, said, okay, if you want, you can make a comment. And two, to close it, all this, what has been the impact on you as a person. From the African side, the culture, this is something very, very heavy. Okay? That's the second one. And to close it all, any government that comes into power in 2026, what are the 4-5 critical issues that must be addressed? You got 2-3 minutes in to close it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So as regards this tussle between Winter and Ambassador Mwamba, I wouldn't want to get into that.
Yeah.
But facts being laid bare are that the victim in all this are the Lungu family. And any person who dare to understand, I've explained the machinations and the issues that have been going on in the background that have been making it impossible. The rule by or trying to approach this matter using propaganda. You've heard a lot of stories. No, President Lungu had 150 vehicles in. He was shot at some restaurant. Yeah. We have all this being perpetuated. You have members of the UPND dancing, saying "Akatumbi kalesa kalesa." You know, you have all those issues that are going on around this issue, and then you think you are going to coerce or use means that were possibly used in Bill 7, coercion, threats, and indeed any form of abuse to enable the family to give in. They will not do that. Let us sit at the table, and as we sit, let us build trust, because that trust has been broken. And at any given time when there have been discussions, trust has been broken. And at an appropriate time, I should be able to lay it down clearly as to what exactly has been happening. Right. Now, as regards coming to national, or the effect that it has had, the effect that it has had on myself is the effect that it should have on you, it should have on any other person. I think we are all mourning. Even as we are approaching the politics, we're approaching the politics with caution, with solemnity that we ought to. The only ones that are seemingly benefiting from this and would want to push this very far is possibly the government, or indeed the UPND, because they have been more not sensitive to the ongoing issues. Some have accused it's because of the PF that we're not doing this. It's because of the family that we're not doing this. All those things have been going on. But what we should be concentrating on right now, even as we are trying to move to a resolution of that matter, is what would honor Zambians. Yeah. In this case, we're saying, let us work on giving people power, energy. Let's not prioritize our neighbors above our own people. And,
the critical issues very quickly.
And let us look to it that we lower the cost of living. As we lower this cost of living, how are we making sure that the way we produce, we subsidize production for purposes of improving our economy. In the mining sector, how are we making sure that we have a win-win situation between the investors and the Zambians? In terms of access to goods and services or social security, how are we making sure that we bring this development to be felt at household level and not these numbers that are flying around? Those are very pertinent issues that we would have to interrogate. And I hope for more time to be able to deal with those issues specifically. And we will be able to do that, especially in the areas of agriculture, mining, industrialization, ITCs, even in tourism itself. We need to delve into those things.
It's been an honor.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. And I promise that we'll definitely have another one in due course. Happy Christmas if you're going to find time.
Certainly, it's my birthday, so I have a lot to celebrate.
Happy birthday to you. Thank you very much, Council. This is the big debate, second from last before